Hello, this is Gary at Jack Raven Bushcraft. Thank you for watching our video. This week I'm going to talk a little bit around making yourself an improvised water filter in the field. If you've been on any of our survival courses, you are likely to have heard me talk about the rule of threes. You might have come across this from other sources. So the rule of three says that we can go 3 minutes without air, 3 days without water, and 3 weeks without food. The 3 days without water, I would challenge you to try to just go a day without water and see how you feel. I know for me that if I don't take in water regularly, I get a blinding headache for one thing. I start to feel sluggish, and that's both physically and mentally. So whilst you can kind of theoretically go 3 days without water, you're going to find that your performance is affected much quicker than that. So if you find yourself in a situation where you need to source water, then part of that is going to be around filtering it. So just to kind of let you know what it is I mean here when I'm talking about filtering. Filtering is about removing all of the particles that might be in your water. So all of those little bits of mud or leaf or stick or any of those things. We want to remove them, not just for aesthetic reasons, just so that the water looks nice, but because that little speck of mud, it might be tiny to you, but if you're a virus, well, that's a mansion, and a virus can hide away quite nicely in that little speck of mud. So it is important that you try to remove as much of those particles, particulate, sometimes referred to as turbidity. You want to remove as much of that as you can. And so what I want to look at now is just one way of making a kind of an improvised filter as you go along. So for that I've just got a plastic bottle. It is a very kind of sad state of affairs, I guess, but it is not unlikely that you're going to come across plastic bottles as you're out wandering around. Yeah, it's just kind of made its way across the globe now. So all I've done with this one, cut the bottom off, put a hole in the cap, and then put it back on. What I could also do is just put a hole in either side of the bottle and then a piece of cordage through it, and then I can hang it up and let it do its work whilst I go off and do other things. So just kind of think about labour saving with all aspects of bushcraft. Now I need to put some material into my filter, and essentially what we want to do is have a kind of a layering system going on. So we want coarse material going down to less coarse, going down to fine. So for your coarse material, it might be that we've got just something like gravel, stones, that kind of thing. From there we might want to go down to something a little bit finer. So it could be that you've just got a finer grade of gravel or pebbles. We could look at something like moss. So I like that moss. This is really effective. I found the finest stuff. Well, it could be that we're just talking about something as simple as sand. Now the sand one, certainly around here where we are on the North Downs in Kent, we're unlikely to start finding any sand. If you are closer to the coast or maybe to a river, that may be more likely that you're able to find that. If you can't find of any of these kinds of things, if you can't find sand, well, you're just going to have to kind of dispense with that one, and maybe double up on the amount of moss, for example. You may hear read about using carbon in your improvised filter. So I've seen read people getting ash out the fire, or getting pieces of charcoal out the fire and grinding that up into a powder and putting that into the filter. So unfortunately that isn't really going to help very much. What it's going to do is turn your water black, but it isn't really going to help much in terms of filtering. So there is a very common misconception here. So what we need to filter water is something called activated charcoal. And activated charcoal can really only be done in an industrial setting, in a factory, in a laboratory, that kind of thing. You are not going to be able to do it in the field. Activated carbon, if you were to look at it under a microscope, a very powerful microscope, the surface of those molecules are going to look a bit like a golf ball in close-up, in that they're going to have little craters all over them. And so what happens there is that through a process called adsorption, so not absorbing but adsorbing, as you pass impurities across that activated charcoal, basically the increased surface area caused by those little craters sort of sucks in those impurities. But that's activated charcoal. It is not the same thing as the charcoal you're going to get from your fire. So just kind of put that to one side and don't bother. So in terms of putting our filter together, our improvised filter together, we want it to pass through the coarsest material first and then going down into finer and finer materials. So that means we need to put them in the reverse order into our filter. So we'll just kind of go with our sand in first, like that, and then we can go with our moss, pack it down nice and tight, and then finally we can put our gravel. And as I say, if we've got a bit of string around this and cordage around this, we can hang this up, get our water going through there, dripping into another container, and go off and do other things. I just want to make clear at this point as well that the water that comes out from this, hopefully it's going to be much clearer than when it went in. Hopefully we're going to have removed all of those particulates that might be in our water, but it isn't safe to drink. All we've done is filtered it, we haven't yet purified it. So purifying is where we need to make it safe to drink. As bushcrafters, then ideally what we can do is just bring that water to a rolling boil for a couple of minutes, and then we're going to have something that's good to go. So hopefully guys, that's of use to you, something that you can take with you on your bushcraft adventures. We'll hope to get some more content out at some point next week. Make sure you don't miss out, so subscribe to either our YouTube channel or our blog. In the meantime, stay safe, take care.